Hello, my fellow crewmates and other guests. Eric EMoney series here with another episode of Tales from the Set. Stories from the world of film and television production, read by me, but written by the crew members who live them. I have 4 brand new stories for you today. One about a hot-headed B actor, another about an actor who is apparently not as nice as his movie characters, and another one about a clueless extra, and finally end with a story about a crew member who creates a sweet moment for 2 A-listers. Before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, give me a thumbs up, and if you like, leave me a comment. Alright, let's get started. Our first story today comes from RobW. On the movie Long Gone, I was working in the locations department and a friend and I were talking about the actors with an off-duty police officer that was working as security. My buddy was saying how all of the very well-known actors after rap would go to a club and party. This friend was quite good looking and the girls would hit on him. No disrespect meant, just a fact in the story. Well, one of the secondary actors would try to pick up someone and she would instead go over to my friend. This guy had an explosive temper and told my friend to stop stealing his girls or he'd kill him. So me, my friend, and the officer are talking about this when up the stairs of the stadium this actor walks with a baseball bat in hand. And he walks right up to us, raising the bat up as the officer puts his hand up and tells the guy to stop and drop the bat. The actor keeps coming and the cop draws his gun and holds it by his side until the guy finally turns and walks away. We were all shaking, the cop too. The next day we got word that the producers told the actor to cool it or he would be fired, his prominent part cut from the film, and he would not be paid. He complied and went on to still work in major films after that. But how stupid can you be and still breathe? It's sad how different the rules are for actors than they are for the crew members. If any crew member behaved like that, he would have been fired on the spot. Our next story comes from Patricia R. I was working a classy, literate off-Broadway show. During final rehearsals, some carpenters were due in, and their lumber was piled up on one side of the stage. As I went down the steps into the house, one of the actors, well known, picked up a piece of the lumber and hit me in the small of the back. I didn't even know the guy personally. I finally caught my breath and looked at him incredulously. He fell all over himself apologizing, saying that he had felt the need to inspect the lumber, and hitting me had been a total accident. I thought, oh well, he seems like a nice guy. It must have been an accident. An hour later into the rehearsal, the same actor picked up another piece of lumber and hit me in the rear end. That time I knew it wasn't an accident and realized that my assessment of him had been based on that he had always portrayed nice guys. I filed the appropriate complaints, including one with the police and the director, who saw the whole thing, even filed one with DGA. In the end, he received some kind of censure from his own union and had to pay a fine in court. I guess that meant he had a criminal record. I've seen him on television since, so I don't know, maybe bad guys finish first? Incidentally, I had no lasting injuries. Another case of actors getting preferential treatment. If this guy were a crew member or even an unknown actor, he would have been blacklisted and never worked in the industry again. Our next story today comes from Sandra M. Working on a big church funeral scene, background filling the pews. As we pan across the sad crowd, there is one guy whose face is lit up by the phone he is trying to conceal on his lap, and he is staring down instead of looking at the person who is delivering the eulogy. Of course I see it, script supervisor here, and tell the director. Director is pissed but says he will cut around it. We pan the other way in the next setup and the guy is still in the same position. I tell the director and he isn't happy but says he will cut around it. Then we do a wide shot of the crowd and the guy is still in the same position, face lit by the phone. I tell the director now he is really pissed. He asks me, should I send him home? I say maybe let the ADs know and they can give him a warning. So he does and they do. We run again on the wide shot and unbelievably, the guy starts by looking up, but then when he thinks the shot should be over, he goes back to his phone. We cut and the director looks at me incredulously. I saw it this time, he says. I feel like firing him and making an example of him. Should I? I say, you should do whatever you feel is appropriate. So he leaves the village and walks to the front of the church and says, hey, you. Yeah, you in the blue suit and green tie. You can go home. Now. The guy just stares at him. Now, go! So the guy gets up and leaves. Director looks at everyone else in the crowd. Anyone else want to play games on their phone instead of work? If so, follow that dude. And then comes back to the village. Well, anyone in the industry knows that incidents like this with extras isn't that uncommon. And I know some directors who wouldn't even have given that guy a warning. They would have kicked him out immediately. And our last story today comes from GLM. One of those moments. I was doing The Mirror Has Two Faces with Jeff Bridges and Barbra Streisand and was going over lighting positions with the DP. One of the apartment windows we needed to hang a 1K out of turns out to be Steve Kahn's, an amazing guitarist who played with Donald Fagen, Aretha Franklin, Miles Davis, etc. And he allows me to use his apartment. Steve is a great guy, and we start talking and ask who's in the film, and I say Jeff Bridges, Barbra Streisand, and he says, Jeff and I are old friends and went to grade school together in Santa Monica. Then Steve goes through his bookshelf and pulls out this big red binder. It's his bar mitzvah book. He then shows me a bunch of pictures of himself in the book at 13, and sitting right next to him in all the pictures is a 13-year-old Jeff Bridges. What then I didn't realize was that Steve Kahn was Sammy Kahn's son. Steve changed his name to get out of his dad's shadow. And at his bar mitzvah in 1960 was all the members of the Rat Pack and every other celebrity who was anyone in 1960. And this photo album, a one-of-a-kind, was just full of pictures of Dean Martin, Sinatra, Joey Bishop, Marilyn Monroe, Elvis, and every celebrity you could imagine in 1960 in these beautiful never-seen photos. Steve then says he will be out on tour during filming and entrusts the keys to his place to me. He says to tell Jeff hello, and if I get a chance, show him the bar mitzvah book, and thinks Jeff will get a kick out of it. Flash forward, we are shooting at this location. The first AD asks me if I have a place that Jeff and Barbara can sit and rehearse stuff and run lines, and I tell him I have the perfect place. I take Barbara and Jeff to Steve Kahn's apartment and then tell him who it belongs to and about the bar mitzvah book Steve wanted him to see. I get it out, and we all now look through it in detail, and Barbara and Jeff are thrilled to see what are amazing photos of 1960 Hollywood. Jeff writes Steve a sweet note and leaves it in the book for him. For me, it was truly fun to be there with those two, so excited to see them so genuinely excited. Okay, I gotta say, GLM always tells the best stories, and I hope he writes a book one day about all his Hollywood experiences. And that will do it for another episode of Tales from the Set. Hope you guys enjoyed these stories. If you have your own tale from the set, be sure to leave it in the comments or post it on Reddit. If I see it, I may just use it in a future episode. Stay safe out there and have a great day.